done my rounds and, thousands of chooks, and I could swear these chooks were calling my name and they were yelling at me, and I just thought, I've really lost my mind. I have lost my mind. My speech was deteriorating. I was losing words. I was losing my language, and I thought, I don't know how long I can go like this. But I felt deeply in my bones that within 12 months I would either be dead or in jail, and I ended up being in jail.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am very much looking forward to hearing your story. I've heard a little bit about you, but I would like you to just share with our audience what is it that you experienced growing up that led you to where you are today?
Yes, thank you. So for me, as a child, I had this deep sense of loneliness and emptiness that carried with me through, my childhood years, my teenage years. So when I became a teenager and found alcohol, it was like this new love in my life, and I became addicted very quickly. So that journey was that took me on about a decade journey of loss, um, really poor relationships. I was listening to one of your episodes. It was your first episode actually about the narcissistic relationship, and I really resonated with that. Been there, done that. That the 10-year period I like to talk about from being a teenager to my mid-20s, that was my true dark night of the soul. It was alcohol, drugs, men, and it just perpetuated and perpetuated until I just couldn't take any more. The drugs had taken me down a path where I'd lost all sense of self. I'd lost my morals. I was homeless. I lost my children. I literally lost every part and aspect of my life and myself. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror one day and thinking, I don't even know who this person is looking back at me anymore. I was hearing voices behind the walls, people conspiring to kill me. Every car or helicopter, I thought there were people conspiring and following me. And there was this moment. I'd been working on a chook farm for a few months and done my rounds, and thousands of chooks, and I could swear these chooks were calling my name and they were yelling at me, and I just thought, I've really lost my mind. I have lost my mind. My speech was deteriorating. I was losing words. I was losing my language, and I thought, I don't know how long I can go like this. But I felt deeply in my bones that within 12 months I would either be dead or in jail, and I ended up being in jail. So you'd think that would be the end, but for me it wasn't. I had to go further and further and further down into the depths of this despair, into this dark hole, and I kept using, and I kept using, and I kept using, and like I said, I thought I'd lost my mind. I was There was this moment one thing I said I would never do would become a prostitute or work in a brothel, but I went there, and I remember how awful I felt in that moment with this truck driver who had obviously paid me to use my body for that moment, and I just thought, how did I get here? For drugs? How did I let myself get here? So it was really the culmination of what I call the end of the beginning for me that gave me a second life, really. I had to go to the depths. I had to go to the darkest parts of my life to then make that decision and say, okay, I can't do this anymore. You know, I don't have my
Yeah.
children anymore. I've had nothing.
Yeah, I've heard, like you say, there's a lot of people that I find, what is that turning point, and for everyone it's different. And I think it's when you decide that I'm actually worse than what I believe about myself. And it's like an internal shift that has to happen. But yeah, it's amazing what we do to ourselves in the end. So how did you end up in jail? What was it
Yeah,
drugs or?
so it was through drugs. So the boyfriend that I was with, he I want to say he led me down this path, but I followed him. So, I said yes, when he first put it to me because we were both using and we needed money, and there's this whole dark underworld that he told me about. And it's as easy as going to Craigslist. And this opened up this whole world. He opened up this whole world to me I didn't even know existed. So he was very controlling and a true narcissist. So he opened up this world to me. I followed, and we got in a lot of trouble with, gangs and people I wouldn't have even thought existed. So what ended up happening was we had at some point on that journey, we'd gotten ourselves into a very dangerous situation with this gang. And I said to him, I can't do this anymore. I can't, we were showing up as I was the escort for the night, and then I would take the money and get in the car and we'd go. Well, that got us into a lot of trouble. We were chased. We had guns pointed at us, and it was just the scariest moment of my life. I said, I can't do this anymore. So instead, he was very smart. I'll give him this. He switched up the strategy instead. So instead, we ended up going for men who were pedophiles. So they thought they were coming to meet up with a young girl, and instead they got us, and then they would hand over the money. What happened was one of them went to the police. We didn't think that would happen. So, one night we thought we were meeting up with one of these pedophiles, and instead we had detectives pick us up, and off to jail we went. And that was my first experience getting in trouble with the law at 30 years old. And they sent me to maximum prison in Sydney for a couple of weeks there. And that was, yeah, that was frightening.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Really
Wow.
frightening.
I mean, the whole thing, right? So how is prison? Just out of curiosity. I
Yeah.
mean, is it like they show in the movies, or did you feel safe?
It is like the movies. I was really lucky. Look, I was only there for 2 or 3 weeks. I'd met a couple of girls that sort of took me under their wing. They were really nice to me, but it was very like you're walking on eggshells. There were fights, there were people getting into trouble. There was people that didn't like each other. There were all the things. So yeah, it was scary, especially for me at 30 years old, never been to jail before, never been in trouble with the law, in that sense at all. So I was definitely glad to be released. They released me on bail. I was on parole for about a year, and I was looking at 3 years jail still for that crime. And thankfully, I had come into recovery by then and really turned a corner. And obviously, the judge could see that.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, did the jail help you to break that drug addiction as well? I mean, just to be out of the streets and.
Not the jail. You're sort of thrown in, you're given your number literally, and that's where you are. So you don't really see anyone. That's it. It was when I got out, and like I said, jail didn't change me. I went even deeper when I got out because I had nothing to lose when I got out. So I kept going for possibly 6 months until I felt like I was losing my mind. And I had this breaking point where I walked into a welfare office to get some vouchers. I was homeless, I was living in my car, and that was my breaking point. And I said to them, I need help. I need a rehab or whatever people do to get off drugs because I can't do this by myself.
Well,
Mm.
yeah. So do you think at any stage that you were being looked after from the other side? Like you've been through all of this and yet you're still alive and you're still sitting here today.
I wholeheartedly do. There were so many times throughout the alcohol, I was a blackout drunk. So the alcoholism, the drug addiction, I was in many scary situations. Looking back, I could have died many times. Surprised I didn't, but I do know I was completely guided. This was a part of my journey in this life to come out the other side and get on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. So just before we get to where you are now, will you say you were incredibly lonely? Was your family, because from my own experience, people that are in abusive relationships, it's not that the family aren't there, it's just that they're not emotionally present. Is that how it
Mhm.
felt for you, or is it something else?
I think there was a couple of things. So there was violence at home, there was alcoholism, but my mum was a corporate woman, so she wasn't there. She also wasn't a very maternal mum either. So I did feel like I was missing, like I saw other mums and I thought, oh, I want my mum at home. I want that mum love. So there was that part I felt like was missing for me. But then also a big spiritual part of this was, I think, just, coming in as one of these new waves of people as we are,
Hmm.
not feeling like
Yeah.
I belong. I felt like an alien here, which looking back from a child, that was kind of true.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was that deep longing to be home, my real home.
Yeah. Yeah, and I find people, we plant ourselves into these places where things are terribly hard, where you really feel the disconnect totally, and people just don't get you, and you can't relate to them because it's like operating on two levels almost. On the one
Mhm.
hand, you're having a conversation, but on the other hand, there's all this other stuff going on that you cannot connect with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really
So
common.
yeah. So you're an entrepreneur. When did that start? Is it like always been there? Is it you've always been busy and looking for ideas? How does that manifest?
No, no. So I was actually a nurse. I'd become a midwife at university. Obviously lost all of my registrations through my addiction. When I came into recovery in 2014, life really, like I said, I turned a corner. I started meditating. I never identified as being spiritual before that, but then this whole world opened up to me through a 12-step program I'd been through. That's how I had my spiritual awakening over that first year in recovery. And I realized, oh my gosh, there's so much more to this life. And I'm meant to do something big here, like really big for the world. And I just dove into the books, the YouTube, and realized, okay, I'm here, I'm this galactic being in this human body. I'm here to help the ascension, and it's all systems are go. I'm gonna have to open a business. I started off as a Reiki healer, and it just kept exploding from there. The more on mission I get, the more the business grows, and it's just been a really beautiful journey since 2018 now. Yeah.
Wow. So well done. Well done to you. Um, if you had to explain what is an entrepreneur, how would you explain that to somebody?
That's a really good question. I think if the definitive answer to that, this is a person, a business owner that solves a problem for profit. But I see things very differently in business. You've got your typical 3D business models and way of marketing. But for me, and this is part of what I do, helping women is I've shifted over here. So yeah, I help women solve a problem. Well, for me, it's more I help women share their mission because there's so much that can hold someone back from sharing their mission, lifetimes of trauma and all the things. So for me, it's sharing your mission. And I mean, we call them spiritual entrepreneurs when you're in the spiritual space. So, you've got your typical entrepreneurs and then spiritual entrepreneurs. It's so mission based. That's so
That's
beautiful.
really that's really interesting. I haven't heard that concept before, but it kind of makes sense because I always say in the old days, if your father was a baker, you'd become a baker. If and this is how it was. And then it changed. And then there were these like groupings that you'd go to school and they'd say, okay, you can become an accountant, a lawyer, a banker, and so on. What do you want to study? And then you're going to align yourself with what is out there. And now it's completely changed. It's more, who am I and what can I give? It's almost reversed. It's rather than trying to fit into a mold, it's creating a new mold.
Yeah, and that's a lot. That's what so many of these new leaders are doing now is
Yeah,
creating new pathways and new ways. That's so cool.
yeah. So how did you become a midwife? I'm just to start off, was that something you felt, was it to do with not having your mom connection? Do you think that had something to do with it?
That's interesting. I think it could have, I'm naturally very nurturing and caring from a young girl. I used to love going to my nan's house and helping her dress. I just love caring for people. So I thought, oh, I'm going to be a nurse when I grow up. And when I went and did my Division 2 nursing, I thought, okay, I'll take it further because something really intrigues me about babies. I'd already had two children by then, and to me, pregnancy is magical and the birth experience is magical, and I love it. So I loved university. I loved assisting women having birth. Definitely was meant to happen for me. Definitely not the first lifetime I've been a midwife either. I think now I've just shifted into from, birthing humans to helping women birth their mission businesses.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it that you're doing right now?
Ooh, so at the moment I am working with at this very present moment I'm hosting this beautiful series for healers, because healers can have so many blocks through lifetimes, right? So I'm literally just giving my all in this free event and helping them clear up these money blocks, unplug from this lack matrix, this matrix that we have been indoctrinated into for so long now. And it's really time that we all break free from that. So it's a big part of what I'm doing at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, because I often say if you're a coach and you're helping people one on one, it's a very slow motion.
Mm,
You can only see so many people in a day. You only have so many hours. But if you're working with healers, you're actually helping them to work with all those clients, and that just becomes an
yes.
exponential thing. Yeah.
Yeah, what a beautiful ripple effect.
Yeah, absolutely. So your what is it that you're doing? Is it a webinar? Is it a online course, or what is it?
I'm actually hosting it in a Telegram series for the
Okay.
week. I'm dropping in these high frequency audios multiple times a day. It's all going to get shut down next week because that'll all then go onto the portal as a paid
Okay.
program, because I'm giving them everything.
Yeah, awesome. So how did your healing happen for yourself? Like, what is it? And so you did the 12-step program, and how did that help you? And I've heard a lot of people go through that. What was your experience of that?
Yeah, changed my life. I couldn't speak highly enough of it. Gave me a second chance at life. Moving through that program, coming out through the other side, I believe that's what started my spiritual awakening. Then I experienced the loss of my beautiful grandmother and a baby, and someone very close to me, all within a few months of each other. And that sort of blew everything open for me. I had to know what was on the other side of this physical reality. What is the reason for the soul wanting to even be a human? Was there even a soul? All the things I had to know. That started me off.
Yeah, because I find you're only ready to learn when you're ready. Like somebody can tell you, but when you're on a mission to go and do the learning, that's when your world kind of opens up and things get presented to them.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be like one specific thing. It would just be that constant growth and joining the dots and moving
Yeah.
forward. Yeah,
Yes, and that's life.
absolutely. Yeah. But I think, what is the main thing that you think is blocking people? What do you think their obstacles are? Yes, they've been through trauma, but from my experience, it's not always necessary to have to heal your past. Like there's
No.
certain things that can be a hook, but other things might just be a matter of mindset shift.
That is so true. And I've come to find that there's these two main pathways for example, if a woman was to come to me and she felt blocked and wasn't making money, I love to quickly just check in, are there what I call light worker entities, because there are specific entities that love to keep light workers small, and they come in the form of self-doubt, though they're in your mind, so they're implanting these belief viruses. We also take on belief viruses from the collective that tell us well, it's too hard to make money, or we've got to work too hard, or whatever it is. Then you've got the lifetimes of blocks as well. So there's that part that I just like to always work with constantly over here on the side. But then there's this other portion, like you said, and I say this a lot, is you can be successful now, even with all the blocks.
Yeah.
There's literally a shift in mindset. So many successful people still have self-doubts or feel like an imposter. It's taking the action. That action just opens up so many pathways for the universe to go, okay, she wants it. Now we can give it to her. She's opening the doorways.
Yeah, I think it's more of a matter of allowing and
Yeah.
just allowing yourself to receive. I think that maybe is exactly what you say. I mean, a block is a block. It's saying, don't come past this point. It's almost like a boundary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So what would you say to people that are feeling stuck right now, that are feeling like they are maybe trapped in a job they hate and want to, follow their purpose and be more in alignment with what they should be doing?
Yeah. I think I never recommend leaving the job and diving in, because that puts added stress on a person, and then the energy gets sticky to move forward. Whereas if you can be supported in your job while you shift into creating a consistent income, makes life so much easier, makes it so much easier to actually move forward and create that momentum. But at the end of the day, it's that consistent action that's going to create that income
Mm.
and the clients. It really is. It doesn't matter what strategy you want to implement, it's going to work if you can take the consistent action and get your energy on board. The energy work is a beautiful support.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I find there are people that lose weight, but if they don't internally shift first, they're
Mm,
just going to gain it all right back again. So
true.
yeah, you need to have everything in alignment,
Yeah.
and yeah, you have to be in accord with it. Otherwise, it's just work, 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 and no focus, maybe no visualizing of what the outcome should be. How
Mhm.
important do you think it is for people to actually um, to visualize their future? Do you think it plays a part at all?
Yes, we're actually talking about this yesterday and today in the group. Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot. Even if you don't have that full unwavering self-belief that you're going to be successful, if you can at least visualize it anyway, you're working in that quantum field. You're bringing that desire into your reality now. And, science is starting to back this up. Visualization
Yeah.
is so powerful. But again, we want to support that with action steps.
Yes, absolutely. But they say knowledge without experience is
Yeah.
wasted. You need that with the experience gives you the wisdom.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So how would you compare you today to you from the past?
It's really, when I think about this, sometimes it's hard to make the comparison, because I feel like I'm not comparing myself to myself anymore. It honestly feels like that's not me. That girl was very lonely, very lost, and using forces outside of her just to survive, literally. Whereas today I'm solution orientated. I take radical responsibility for where I'm at, how I'm feeling, and I lead myself. I'm always looking ahead and looking at how I can enjoy my life now as well, because that's really important.
Yeah. And the voices, have they also disappeared or are they still
They did.
hovering
They
around?
they disappeared over a few months, or within that first year, everything cleaned up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our brain is an antenna for quantum, for the quantum field. So if you're not present, if you're vacant, then other entities can come and inhabit your brain, right? Whatever they are.
Mm.
Yeah.
Totally. Yes. Yeah. I'd say my first year of healing was heavily focused on the dense stuff, really clearing out that heavy stuff
Mm,
first.
yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say you took that from past lives into this life?
Which part?
Having those, not feeling like you're supported, feeling the loneliness, feeling,
Ah, that's a good question. I think there are so many threads to our other lifetimes that all connect. For this one, I really feel like it was just coming in at this moment in time, so ready for this change because this is a lifetime we all get to change it all.
yeah.
But in saying that, there's other parts of my life where I can see clear threads to the other lifetimes. Yeah.
Yeah, because I often think that people think you're going to start on a clean slate. Next lifetime, we're going to be something
Mm.
else. And the next lifetime, oh, let's try this. But I've actually found that you're continuing a thread that started somewhere.
Yeah.
And until you
Yeah.
heal it, you're just going to keep being born into
Yeah.
that again
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
you face it.
So
And
I have a good example for you then.
mm,
One of my lifetimes was as an Atlantean high priest, so I wasn't a good person in that life. I went there with good intentions to wield my power and help with that golden age, but I got caught up in, the bells and whistles and the power and ended up going down quite a dark path with how I used my power. My life ended through the Great Flood there, and then I came went and sat with my high council and there was no judgment, of course, but we decided, okay, I'll come back and this time I'll be persecuted as a witch. So instead, this time, I'm balancing the scales a bit. I was raising my daughter in that lifetime, doing good for her because in my Atlantean life I wasn't very nice to the children. So I was balancing those scales, balancing the karma, but this time the power was taken from me. And now this life, I'm here to do good with this power.
yeah, yeah, well, that makes sense. I find it amazing how many healers have been persecuted in past
So
lives.
many. Like all of them.
I've had quite a few memories as well.
Yes.
But I think you know what, if you see it from a bigger picture, if it's almost like just like being in a play, this is the character I'm playing, and we take it so seriously. Sometimes
Exactly.
sometimes you just
We
got to sit
really
back and go,
do.
you know what, it's not that serious. It's actually
Yes.
we're just here to be an experience. Yeah.
Yes. And it's all going to be over one day, and we're going to look back, and it's going to be this tiny little blimp in the existence of our souls.
So what would you say is like one of the most important things that people should be carrying through in their lives? What is more important? Like there's always one overriding thing that should, like for some people, anxiety is the overriding thing, or what would be a better replacement?
Mm. I think in this day and age, with the digital world that we live in, it's so important to be, whatever being is for you. For a lot of people are going back to nature. So we moved into a country area. I think a lot of people are doing that too since the pandemic. Made people realize, okay, what do I really want in life? Well, I want to enjoy my life. I want to experience peace and happiness. I don't want to be in that rat race that causes anxiety because I need to be at work at a certain time and all the things. It's
Yeah,
really, we're here to experience and to be. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. All right. So how can people get hold of you?
You can simply go to my website, newearthschool.com.au, and that will lead you to all the places.
Okay, awesome. I'll put the links in the description. And then do you have a message for our viewers so that they can take home with them?
Mm. My message would be that whether you are consciously aware that you're here on a big mission or not, whether you are an at-home mom or you're working a day job, you are here at this time for a purpose. You don't have to be, you don't have to be you don't have to be work. What am I trying to say? You don't have to own your own business with this big mission to make a difference on this planet because you you opted to come here at this time for a very specific reason. And for some of you, you are literally the codes and the frequency you are sharing. That's enough.
Yeah, beautiful. Nice. Thank you. I was just thinking, we've been brought up as children to be uh, following society, conforming, doing the right thing. You go to church, you dress up, everyone sits in a corner and talks about this one and that one, and you always feel like the loner on the outside.
Mhm.
And I think for that reason, it's so hard to be authentic. How hard is
Yeah.
it for you to share your story? Because coming out like you have, that is huge. I think for someone to have done that 10, 20 years ago, that would have been
Yeah.
a disaster to your career.
Yeah.
Whereas now
And
it's different. I mean, it must be hard for you.
yes, and look, I've had a couple of coaches in the past tell me not to share my story. Felt like sandpaper to my soul because for me, um, unleashing who I really am, which again, coming into recovery and letting all of that out was the most freeing thing I ever did. And I don't believe I went through that to keep it to myself or keep it a secret. I think when I do share that story, it unlocks something for another woman, whether I'm talking about the prostitution, whether I'm talking about the homelessness, or just feeling, destitute. It serves. So
Yeah.
today, it's a non-negotiable for me. When I do talk about it, it feels right and good for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree because if you're going to keep pretending to be somebody you're not and put on, a face, then how are you being authentic? How can you teach somebody else to be when you can't be
Exactly.
yourself?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have your relationships changed with your friends, or have you got totally different friends now? How has that changed for you and your family?
Yes, we are. I'd like to say honestly, I don't know anyone from my past now. I pretty much, when I came into recovery, I got on a train in Sydney because I chose a rehab that was the furthest away I could get to in the States. It was an 8-hour train ride. On that train ride, I took out my SIM card, put a new one in, changed my number, left my old life behind. Met my husband in recovery, traveled to get my boy back, and we've been a family unit ever since for nearly 10 years. So it's us. My parents live downstairs, and we just love our little family unit. That's us. We are homebodies, and we love that.
Yeah, I think compared to the life you had, this is just amazing. It's like you can't actually visualize that life could be so different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yep.
Yeah, so it is. It's almost like you've literally stepped into different shoes and said, I can be another person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done. And yeah, I agree with you. You have to be yourself. You cannot pretend to be somebody else. And that's the biggest cause of, I think, most trauma is that people always have to say things they don't mean, keep quiet when they should be speaking up.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I will post all your links below. And yeah, I will let you know, I think. Try and post it as quickly as possible. So maybe people can even get on the tail end of knowing that you've got this course going
Yeah,
on, and then
sure.
we can
Yeah.
yeah, I'll send them off to the website. If there's anything you want me to like put in your bio or whatever, please send it to me and I will add that
Yes,
as
great.
well.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Sarah, have an
Oh,
awesome evening. What time is it
thank
there now?
you.
It's quite late.
It,
Huh?
it 6:35. It's not too
Oh, okay,
late.
so you've still got time. All right. Well, thank you again. Thank you for sharing your
Good to
story,
meet
and I
you.
will post it on to YouTube as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you. Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.